Most employees are giving you signs before they leave. Are you missing them? Disengaged employees rarely shout about it, but the quiet damage and the quiet impact they have adds up. And they can cost businesses about 34% of their salary in lost productivity. Missed deadlines, low energy, a vibe that brings others down and just drains everybody around them. And with a small team, that's a massive hit. And it has a disproportionate effect on you and your small team. But catching it early can save you stress, time, and even other team members. A rotting apple doesn't necessarily have to be a horrible person with a horrible attitude. It can be the disengaged employee that then sends ripples and rots the bunch. Hi, I'm Kathy Doherty, and this is the People Navigator channel, where small businesses learn how to lead with clarity and care. Today, we're looking at how to spot some of the early warning signs of disengagement before it turns into turnover or tension. There are various terms given to this. In the past, it's been things like presenteeism or work to rule, and nowadays we've got things like quiet quitting or job cuffing. So this isn't a new problem, it's not a new situation, but we know more about it. And there's more help out there. There's more guidance on what to do and how to do it. But begin by noticing the drop in curiosity. Engaged people ask questions, they suggest ideas, they suggest solutions. They are engaged, not just their brain, but their emotions, their energy is engaged in what they do. When they're curious, they care about what happens, they care about outcomes, they care about what goes in as well as what comes out, they care about the ripple effects, they care about things happening that impact on all of that. They care and it shows. Whereas disengaged employees, they don't. They maybe do what they need to do and nothing more. They give that bare minimum of what you would see as a business. And the thing is, it's important also to differentiate between the employees who they enjoy their work, but they also understand that their whole life isn't work. Now that's very different to people who are disengaged. You can have somebody who understands the lines. They don't want to blur the lines between their personal life and their work life, and that's okay. Whenever they're giving what they can to their work life, then we all like that separation. Well, most of us do. And that's a healthy perspective. It's not to be sniffed at, it's not to be frowned on, that people need a personal life. They need things outside of work, because that then gives them perspective and also helps them manage the pressures of work. So this isn't about those employees. This is about the employees who aren't engaged. They don't show the same care that others do. And the important thing is where this is a changed pattern. That's how you know when somebody goes from engaged to disengaged. There has been a change, and that change can be something that you have influence over, but it might be something you don't have influence over. So is this somebody who now just shrugs in a meeting? They're no longer engaging, they're no longer contributing. They attend because they have to attend, but they're not really contributing anymore, but they used to. We all go through cycles. So whilst we have the employees who understand that there's work life and there's personal life, and they try to keep things as balanced as possible, it's always a juggling act. But we also go through cycles where some of us kind of go off the boil a bit. We're maybe not as sharp as we were because something's happened, we're dealing with something, but it's not because we're disengaged, as we're dealing with stuff in life. And the cycle will come around again and they'll be back in. So it's understanding what those cycles are. What is a cycle versus what is a continued change in a pattern? That's what you're trying to spot. So track the energy, not just the output. How much energy is somebody giving? How much energy do they radiate when they're involved in anything, whether it be just normal conversation? Are they still hitting their targets, but they don't have the same energy about it? You know, it's the not what you do, it's the way that you do it. They're more mindlessly achieving their targets, but there's something lacking that was there before. What is your antenna? We've talked about this before. What's your antenna telling you? What are you picking up? What are your senses picking up about that person? Is their tone, has it changed? Were they somebody who was animated? And doesn't have to be children's TV type animation. It can be somebody who was engaged, where you felt their energy was involved, they really enjoyed, but that's flattened. That's gone for some reason. Their pace is slower in some way, or they stopped connecting with the team. This all comes down to you knowing your team members. And it can be difficult when you're the owner and you're juggling so many things and you're spinning so many plates. But begin by noticing. Train yourself to notice these things. Train yourself to notice little things, because this all matters. And if you think about the cost of replacing somebody, that's not cheap. So imagine the preventative steps that you can take to understand whether this is something you can do something about, or whether it's out of your control, but you might be able to provide them with some support that keeps them engaged with you for when they come out of this particular cycle, if it's a cycle. Also, look for friction or isolation. Has there been a change in their pattern, a change in how they're connecting with their colleagues, with clients and customers? It can show up that people are maybe a bit more short-tempered, where they're maybe a bit snappy on it, or maybe they're more sarcastic than usual, or it's a different level of sarcasm, or they're just withdrawing. You feel there's some sort of pullback that's happening with them. They're just not themselves. And you might not be able to put your finger on it, but there's just something that feels off. It feels different. And the vibe that you're getting from them is negative. It's not the same as it was. They might stop joining in small talk, the chit chat. They might stop talking about what's going on in their home life or what they did at the weekend, where they talked about that before. Or they're maybe avoiding eye contact. They don't want to be around you as much or around others. They're wanting to keep their head down and not really engage as much. They're maybe resisting collaborating with other people, that they're less keen to get involved in team projects where they were keen before. It can be easy to miss, but it does add up, and it can add up really quickly, especially if you haven't noticed anything. Some of these signs can sound a bit like depression, but sometimes if it's purely work-related stuff, you need to understand more. You need to be curious about what's going on, because that can save you. That can save the employee and keep them with you, especially when things aren't going well. Also check the calendar. So this is about the actual evidence of that. And this is where, if you have HR software, that it can help you to spot and show any kind of trends or heat patterns. But also there'll be things that you'll want to track that are maybe less formal, because this is all about trying to engage rather than from a penalty, punishment, that side of things. This is you wanting to understand a pattern, understand what's going on, and it gives you something that it's not just, is it just me? Time flies so quickly that it can be hard to remember what has gone before. I mean, our lives are busy. Can you even remember what happened a month ago when it comes to one of your employees' patterns if you don't have it noted down somewhere? And over a space of time, that can give you an actual pattern where it's not just your perception, where you're more likely to remember what's happened most recently as opposed to maybe something that happened 2 months ago. So where you notice a change happening, start to take notes, start to observe notice what's going on and just keep a little informal note just in some way that makes sense to you. But it could be that somebody is more likely to take sick days, whereas they wouldn't have for years. Maybe there's something going on. Maybe their holiday requests or time off are more last minute than they used to be. Maybe there's a pattern of them, they seem to be arriving late on a particular day, or there's a pattern. There's something happening, and unless you understand why, you can't be of help to them. Could it be that maybe there's this pattern at a particular time of year, and that's connected to an anniversary, a sad anniversary for that person, and they tend to go off the boil. Something seems to happen, they get a bit more withdrawn. Unless you know your people and your relationships are based on trust and trust connections, you won't know this. And therefore you won't be able to provide assistance in a way that retains your people, that shows that you care. So don't wait until someone's barely showing up to do something, because by then it's probably too late. Not always, but probably. And this is where it all comes down to you creating that safe and trusted space that they can talk to you, that they can open up. And whether it be them talking to you or somebody else, that they can share what's going on. And that then allows you as an employer to be able to provide the support to retain your people, to treat them as the holistic, whole, messy individuals that we are. So make sure those regular check-ins, your regular catch-ups, go beyond the tasks. You're wanting to understand who they are, how they're getting on, and asking them about how they feel about their own role, especially if somebody's been there for a while, or there's been changes, or it's tapping in and checking in to say, how are you doing as a human being? How is life beyond the workplace? How are you feeling about everything? And there are ways to phrase this to encourage the conversation, but you're not going to get it anywhere if you haven't built that trust and trusted connection with your people. Simple as that. They will not tell you anything, and more than likely they'll head off because they couldn't feel that they could trust you with that information, and they'll go somewhere else. And if you have built that trusted relationship with them, be prepared for what they might say. It might not be what you want to hear, and this is where your reaction will matter. And I've talked about this in previous videos, that how you react to feedback that might not be the most positive will influence how honest people are with you, both in that moment and in future. And especially if somebody has been honest with you and you haven't reacted well, it's more than likely they will begin to see that as the breakdown of a relationship, and they'll start looking elsewhere. Wouldn't you? Disengagement is rarely about laziness, and quite often it's actually about disconnection or distraction. It could be an exciting time in somebody's life and they're just simply distracted. They've got all this nervous energy, but how will you know? And spotting it early allows you to do your best to reconnect before it's too late. Have a think about yourself when you begin to feel a disconnection or a disengagement. What does that look like for you? What is your thought process? Is it you're more than likely to take a day off and go, sod it, I'm just going to take the day off because you're becoming less engaged, you care less? And what have you noticed in others? And what have you actually seen from employees in the past? What are those early warning signs that when somebody handed in their resignation, you went, I saw this coming, I knew, but what did you do about it? And was it within your power to do something about it? Let's chat in the comments below or pop to the website and engage there. And if you're interested in decent HR software that doesn't cost a fortune that you'll actually use, then let me know. See you next time.